Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and in today's video I am taking a walk around my local CEX store. That's CEX in Norwich, or CEX as it's supposed to be pronounced. And I'm taking a look at what sort of stock they've got in and the prices to go with them. It's late April 2025 when I visited, and I'm mainly focusing on sort of the retro items that they stock or sell, but I do have a look at some other things as well. So here we go. So in this first cabinet you've got a PSP at 115, PlayStation Vita's starting at 135, going up to 195, some Vita memory cards there. Moving across we get some Game Boys, so there's a Game Boy Color there at 75, boxed 155, a Game Boy Micro at 110, some Pokemon games holding their value there at 40, 45 pounds, boxed 125. Some Game Boy Advance games there, 15 up to about £80. Everything else looks fairly reasonably priced. Some Game Boy Color games there. Then we've got a Commodore 64 Mini at £32. There's a SNES Mini there, but I don't know the price. A NES Mini at £60. A PS1 mouse at £30. A PS1 at 45, and I think that's a PlayStation 1 at 40. Yeah. Moving up, we've got Sonic Adventure on the Neo Geo Pocket at £135, and Dreamcast games. The SNES Mini is £80, and the Neo Geo Pocket Color at £135. What else have we got here? We move across to some PlayStation games, fairly reasonably priced, sort of starting at about £8. A couple of games there, a racing game at £55. I don't think that's Ridge Racer. And we've got a Sub-Zero game there at £165, and a Namco gun at £12. Then we've got next cabinet, some SNES games, starting at £4 unboxed, going up to like 22, 28, 45 for a box. I think that's a Conkers game there. Cool Spot poking out there. There we've got a Pikachu N64 at £350. Ouch. Some unboxed N64 games starting at £3. Some more expensive ones going up to £45, £75. Move across to GameCubes, starting at, what's that, £70 to £110. There's £140 for a Game Boy player. That's not too bad. £45 for Hit and Run on the GameCube. A very expensive game, whatever platform. Move across to the Saturn section. You've got Christmas into Nights at £30. Wow. What we got here? Need for Speed at £28. Enemy Zero at £100. And some other Saturn games. Move down, we've got Master System and Game Gear. Reasonably priced. I don't know what the price of that Master System is, but the Game Gear games look fairly reasonably priced. We've got, wow, £110 for Shinobi 3, £30 for, I think, some sort of wrestling game. Move across to the Mega Drive section. Unboxed games sort of starting at £8. Nothing massively expensive. 30 quid for Sonic 3. What else have we got? A SNES Mini there at £80. We're going up there. There's a PS2 and some PS3s up there. A lovely pink PlayStation 3 controller. I think, no, that might even be a PS2 controller. And we're having a quick look back round what we've already seen. So some reasonable prices and some big prices. Here we go to the DS section. Some very expensive Pokemon games there, 58, 82, 105. We've got an original DS at £50, DS Lite at 65, DSi at 75, 85, a DSi XL at £75. That's not too badly priced. This is a Nintendo 2DS coming into shot. How much is that? That is £70. A 3DS XL at £190 for an original one. Ouch. £240 for a new 3DS XL. That is quite pricey. What have we got down here? I think we've got some Wii U's now coming into shot. £100 for the Black Premium. some games and some accessories floating around there. We've got a white one here. It's a basic. How much is that? £90. Okay. There's a Wii sitting there, but I don't know the price of it. But they did have quite a few Wii consoles in. Nobody really wants Wiis at the moment. Some black ones there. What price have we got on those? Can't see. £55 for a Nintendo Wii. Ooh, that's a bit pricey, I think. But they do seem to have quite a few of them. Some Xbox. Ooh, are they Xbox Ones at the bottom there? And we got to the game section. So this is the DS game section. Nothing too drastic here. A lovely big selection of DS and 3DS games. The only games really that are sort of highly priced are probably Mario games. Everything else, £1 or so. There are some. There's a Resident Evil there, £15 for the 3DS. I don't think these are extortionate prices. Super Mario, I think that's 64. DS is £22 there. Mario Land for the 3DS, I think that was a tenner. You've got some Super Mario Bros down there. That's quite expensive. Is that £20 for Super Mario Bros? Yeah, and Bros 2 is only a tenner. So a nice selection. Then we've got some Wii games. Same again. It's just the Mario games that seem to hold their value. Everything else is a lot of filler. We move across to the retro side here. Some Vita games, which I think were fairly reasonably priced. We've got some Xbox games. Hit and Run for the Xbox is 22. Everything else looks fairly sort of what I'd expect. Vita games starting at £6, so that's quite cheap. Some PSP games down there. Nothing is going to be too expensive on that. Then we've got PlayStation 2. Yet again, everything's sort of like £1 or so, a couple of quid. Nothing too expensive. There will always be the odd one or two games that hold their value, but there was an awful lot of games for the PS2, and a lot of them, well, there was a lot of them. So you've got Hit and Run there at £25. That's the most expensive PS2 game I could see. Everything else, like I say, £1, £2. Some Harry Potter games coming in at £2.50, £5. Nothing drastically expensive, but a nice selection. Here we got the PS3 games. Same again. Most PS3 games are quite cheap. Call of Duty sitting up there at like £1 or so. Last of Us at a fiver. Really isn't anything that's going to break the bank for the PlayStation 3. Can't see anything. There's a Simpsons game there. That's quite expensive. What else have we got? Just your usual PlayStation 3 games. GTA 5 at a fiver. Lots of Assassin's Creeds. They're all going to be quite cheap. But then we come to the Switch section. Newer console. Mario game. Well, most games for the Switch are expensive. Lots of sort of £35, £38 for Mario titles. What's the most expensive I can see on this? About 38, I think. You're not going to get anything on the Switch for like less than a tenner. Even Just Dance down there is £12. They have dropped a little bit, but they're still quite expensive. But a nice selection of Switch games. So that was a look around Norwich's CEX store, and I've made a few little notes here. So PSP was a bit high, I thought. That was a 1000 model, pretty sure it was, at 115. I mean, it was white. They do go for a little bit more, but that's a lot of money. The C64 Mini was a good price. The PS1, the PlayStation 1, they were good prices. Neo Geo Pocket Color Sonic at £135, a bit over the top, but Neo Geo Pocket Color games do go for a lot of money, as do the consoles. They've got a boxed Neo Geo Pocket Color for £135. It's not too highly priced. I mean, unboxed ones go for about sort of £70, £80 on eBay, so Yeah, okay. That N64, that Pokemon Pikachu Nintendo 64 was insanely priced at £350. I mean, I know it's probably a rare special edition, but that's a lot of money. GameCubes, they weren't too badly priced. The Game Boy Player for the Cube, well, at £140, that was a bit high. It's not actually the Game Boy Player itself that costs. You can pick them up for £10, £20 on their own. It's the disc that comes with it that enables it to play on the GameCube. A lot of second-hand Game Boy players come without the disc, and then they're pretty much useless. So it's the disc that they were pretty much charging for there. Saturn games, they were okay. Master System Game Gear games, they were okay. Then we get to the DS's, some very high DS Pokemon games there, but with all Pokemon, they seem to hold their money. We saw some Game Boy Pokemon games there, and they were quite pricey. DS prices I did think were pretty high. DS, DSi, DS Lite, they were quite expensive. I think that was £60. I think £50, £60 for a DS Lite. You can probably pick them up for half that price. The only one there that was reasonably priced was the DSi XL. 3DS prices insane. Yeah, that blew me away. That did. Wii U's weren't too bad, £90 to £100. Wii's at £55. Well, they've got plenty of them, so they're obviously not selling that many of them. Nobody really wants a Wii these days. You can pick them up dirt cheap, £10, £20. So I thought that was a little overpriced. But it is CEX. You have a nice big selection of games for pretty much all systems. I mean, I didn't look at things like the PS4, PS5, Xbox 360, or any of the Xbox range other than the original Xbox. And they have shelves and shelves of games, all at pretty decent prices. You always get the odd few games that are either harder to get or just are higher in price, but they're pretty good on game prices, and they do have a nice selection of games. Some of these prices, especially with hardware, you do get your 2-year warranty with anything you buy, so it's a no quibble replace, refund, etc. So that's why they do increase their prices over something like, I don't know, eBay or another store somewhere. I do have a little bit of a quibble with CEX. I mean, another big giant corporation that sort of come over and took an industry. I do feel that it kind of squashes the little stores, but I do shop in there regularly, and I like to look through what they've got in their sort of retro cabinets and browse through these huge selection of games that they do for various systems, every system you could find in there. So that was just a quick wander around my local Norwich CEX, seeing what they've got in. Like I said, it was late April when I went in and filmed. So there you go. Let me know what you think. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.